drawing their Zimbabwe gold. Those are the ZiG notes and coins from local banks, with members of the public expressing excitement over the circulation of this new currency. And I'm sure that you have held the ZiG notes and coins in your hands. Now, we'll be discussing more on this with guest Dr. Friedrich Hamadziripi. He is a senior finance law lecturer at the University of Zimbabwe, and as well Mr. Alois Burutsa, General Manager at Buy Zimbabwe. Now, in the third segment, we will also link virtually with Kadoma-based economist, that's Mr. Langton Mabhanga. But for now, we look at the exchange rates as of today.
Exchange rates as of today were: the Zimbabwe gold to the USD interbank rate was at 13.53 ZiG. The Zimbabwe gold to the Great Britain pound interbank rate was at 16.90 ZiG. The Zimbabwe gold to the euro interbank rate was at 14.53 ZiG. The Zimbabwe gold to the South African rand interbank rate was at 1.37 ZiG. The Zimbabwe gold to the Botswana pula interbank rate was at 0.99 ZiG.
We also give you the commodity prices on the global market.
On the global market as of today, where gold per ounce traded at $2,321 after it went down by 0.05 percentage points. Silver per ounce traded at $27.85 after it went up by 0.90 percentage points. Copper per pound traded at $454.20 after it went down by 0.01 percentage points. Platinum per ounce traded at $981.79 after it went up by 0.55 percentage points.
Well, that's all we had for you in the first segment of World of Business. Do join us in the second segment as we delve deep into this discussion. Welcome back to the second segment of World of Business. Now, as I have alluded to earlier, Zimbabweans have started withdrawing their Zimbabwe gold. That's the ZiG notes and coins from local banks, with members of the public expressing excitement over this new circulation of the new currency, rather. Now, hopes are high that the structured currency will deliver the desired economic change and bring relief to the transacting public following the launch of the new currency last month. Now, as we continue with the discussion on the new structured currency, today we are joined by Dr. Friedrich Hamadziripi, Senior Finance Law Lecturer at the University of Zimbabwe, and Mr. Alois Burutsa, General Manager at Buy Zimbabwe. Now, they will help us unpack this issue. Welcome to World of Business, gentlemen.
Thank you, Marvin. Welcome.
Okay, so I'll start with you, Dr. Hamadziripi. In a remarkable development, Zimbabwe started accessing ZiG notes and coins from banks on the 30th of April, following the introduction of the new currency. That was on the 5th of April by the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. Now, what has been the reaction of the market to the ZiG so far?
Thank you so much for the question. Just to put a little bit of context to it, if we look at the exchange rates on the 9th of April, the ZiG was trading at 13.53 to the US dollar. Then we move 21 days or 3 weeks later, the ZiG was trading at 13.43 to the US dollar. So on the face of it, we can conclude that the ZiG has gained some value, which we can interpret as a good store of value. It will be a good store of value because it's not just a currency, it is a currency that is backed by gold and other minerals and also other foreign currency reserved at the RBZ. Yes.
So now, Mr. Burutsa, this is your forte.
I think the ZiG, as far as I'm concerned, I think the ZiG is a very good introduction, a currency which needs the support of every Zimbabwean. We all need to support this currency, and as Doc mentioned earlier, it is backed by gold, it is backed by USD reserves and other precious minerals. And therefore, we should not see it running away like we saw before, because this is not a fiat currency. This is actually backed by, by something. And therefore, why should we allow it to run away?
So now, does the introduction of this new ZiG currency signal a shift towards de-dollarization?
As the governor has said, that it's a strategic and long-term thinking whereby they've adopted a progressive approach, whereby it's not something that may really happen overnight. But with those small steps, I believe ZiG is the first step towards the de-dollarization of the economy. Yes.
What about you, Mr. Burutsa? Do you think we are capacitated enough to de-dollarize our economy?
Yes. In fact, the governor did mention that according to their plans, they are hoping that at least by the end of this year, we should have attained about 30% use of the local currency in the market. And then by the time we get to around 2030, I think that is their target, to say by the time we get to 2030, we should have completely de-dollarized. And that is the way to go, actually, because if you are using a foreign currency, a hard currency for that matter, it means that your exports become uncompetitive. It means that you cannot control monetary policy and so forth. And also just to ensure that our ZiG maintains its value, I think it is important that we embark on strong import substitution strategies, through the likes of Buy Zimbabwe, to say, let us promote the use of local products. Let us support our local products down the value chain. Our local content strategy must now be strengthened to say that let us incentivize companies that are deepening local value chains so that we reduce our dependence on imports. By doing that, we are also then reducing our dependence on the US dollar. And therefore, if demand for the US dollar is reduced, it means that the ZiG, or our local currency, will then strengthen, because no one, we have fewer people looking for the US dollars. But also we need to look at even because remember in Zimbabwe, we require US dollars not just for imports, but also even local use, right? So we now need to move away as much as possible to try and then, make sure that we incentivize or we actually promote the use of the ZiG. I know government is slowly moving away from, to ensure that things like the passports and so forth are also paid in ZiG, so that we reduce completely our dependence of the US dollar for local transactions.
Okay, so now let's talk about this. As we conclude the second segment, the government has declared zero tolerance to illegal foreign market exchange activities. And now we have seen the police effecting arrests on those who were caught on the wrong side of the law. Now, the question now is, how significant is this in taming all illegal forex trading, and what other measures should be put in place now in order to completely eradicate all illegal forex activities?
I think I applaud the government for dealing with money changers. Because remember, like I said earlier on, the ZiG is backed by gold, by USD and so forth. It's not a fiat currency. So therefore, Marvin, you should not allow a situation whereby you go and sit under a tree and then you say, my rate is 21. Based on what? Backed on what? It is backed by gold and other, fundamentals. So therefore, government should not allow anyone to charge the rate that they want. That's number one. And besides, those people are being arrested because they are violating the law. The law is very clear. If you are not a bureau de change, if you are not a bank, and so forth, you cannot trade in US dollars. You cannot sell, US dollars. You see, so therefore, those people are breaking the law, and therefore, and more importantly, as I said, why should somebody come up with their own rate? That is just being totally lawless. That is lawlessness. Let's abide by the law. And if the law says our currency is backed by gold, is linked to the movement of the price of gold, so therefore our rate should be according to that. And besides, you cannot sell foreign currency if you are not registered Okay.
Dr. Hamadziripi, as we conclude.
Retail shops and these other fast food outlets, they have their own rates, which are not the official rate. We've seen even private schools using different rates from the ones that are stipulated. We also need that to be addressed as well.
That brings us to the end of the second segment of this program. Now, in the third segment this week, we will not have our Entrepreneur of the Week, but rather we are going to interact virtually with economist Mr. Langton Mabhanga, who is commenting on the recent developments pertaining to the ZiG. So do stay tuned. And that is all that we're going to be talking about in the third segment of this program. Welcome to the program, Mr. Mabhanga. Earlier last month, we witnessed that the government of Zimbabwe introduced a new currency called the Zimbabwe Gold. That's the ZiG. Now, of late, we have seen the circulation of the ZiG notes and coins. What is your take on this move?
Going through the entire synopsis of the current journey for Zimbabwe. Mind you, there have been several attempts, and it will also be acknowledged at the back of those attempts is the full realization and full knowledge that as a sovereign state, as a growing economy, we need to have our own Zimbabwean currency. That is an irrebuttable position that is very clear to all Zimbabwean sons and daughters that Zimbabwe, of its own flag, of its own sovereignty, requires own currency.
Yes, yes. Those are very valid points that you make there, Mr. Mabhanga. And Zimbabwe has been a multi-currency system for a very long time. And confidence has now been restored by government through the introduction of this new currency, which is backed by gold and is meant to tame inflation as well as the parallel market activities. Now, what does this demonstrate about this new currency?
Right from inception, President Idi Mnangagwa has been making a fundamental assertion that as a sovereign state, we need to have our own currency, notwithstanding the functionality of the basket of currencies. Currently, through an SI, has been given a lifespan up to 2030. I think depending on the growth of the economy and so on, so forth, we will see how that will span out beyond 2030. New currency, the Zimbabwe gold, is backed by gold and other minerals converted to gold, and we are on a sure path. We are on a much more solid, sure path that we have started. We have pitched a currency. We have pitched a robust currency. We have pitched a genuine, notable, formidable currency.
Yes. So now, Mr. Mabhanga, another critical question now that arises from all that you have said so far is, what does this move demonstrate about the government's willingness to revive the economy of Zimbabwe?
The government is the biggest economic agent in any economy. And once you get you read a currency through the attitude of a government on its own currency. And one thing that we have seen, which is going to be very, very critical to the success of this currency, which has already been expressed by the Second Republic, is the endorsement, the acceptance, the mainstreaming of the ZiG currency in the mainstay, tax, various tax channels that are prevalent in Zimbabwe. And we have seen that Zimbabwe is going to have a tax system that has already integrated ZiG and the quarterly dues due to Zimra have been allowed to be made up to 50%, even if there hasn't been much transactions incurred by any company in that, in at least in Q1, even in Q2, we know that many companies have almost dollarized. But Zimbabwe has gone on to say, bring on the ZiG, 50% of that. So this is just the sincerity of government. And we have also seen that many other channels have been opened up to use ZiG. Fuel is one example, one that we once alluded to. But I mean, look, let's also have the fuel benchmarked in two currencies, the ZiG and the US dollar. That is a fundamental endorsement of a currency demonstrated by the government administration.
Mm-hmm. So now, lastly, this question we have discussed on it earlier in this program, but I'll let you respond to it as well. The government has declared zero tolerance to illegal foreign market exchange activities. And we have seen the police effecting arrests on those who were caught on the wrong side of the law. Give us your response on this.
A time has come where Zimbabwe has set itself on a concerted path of a robust, backed, hedged by value currency. And those activities should pull the curtain down. The curtain is down. And let's go and work in the mainstream economy. Those that wish to explore that as a business, then they have to follow the due processes. But let that phase go down. We now have a currency that has been supported. So in my closing remarks, it is now very important that as a nation, we focus on production, productivity, import substitution, because there comes increased reserves. The more we will increase reserves, the more ZiG currency we're going to have, the more ZiG currency we're going to have, the more regional, continental, international acceptance our currency will move on the various markets. So we need to push our tobacco production. We need to push our food production. If we can be a fully food sufficiency economy, use our minerals, try and increase the value chains that they be explored and exploited in country, we'll be able to support more ZiG.
Well, those are very valid points that you made there, Mr. Mabhanga, and thank you so much for joining us right here on World of Business. And special thanks as well to our guests, Dr. Hamadziripi, as well as Mr. Burutsa, for joining us right here on World of Business. Well, that's all we had for you on this week's edition of World of Business. Next week, we bring a different topic, but we will have a guest in studio, so you definitely do not want to miss that. But for now, have a pleasant viewing.